what we're talking about could save every individual who voted for you money and can save it in their water bill. Now notice I didn't say that their water bill would be lower or that I got a way to make water cheaper. What I just said is, if you listen, we can talk about ways to save your citizens, your ratepayers, money, all right? There's just a couple, I love these maps. Does anybody know what those maps represent? They're dot maps. Okay? And what those three dots are is under the what is all the natural gas utilities. Then the electric utilities, then the water utilities. Natural gas consolidated years ago. Electric is still consolidating today. They're still looking for ways to do it. And there are 49,000 water systems in the United States. Now, the interesting thing about that is 55% of those 49,000 serve less than 500 people. How many of you are businessmen or businesswomen? Or were before you became an elected official? Could you run your business efficiently and make a living selling to 500 people or less? That's pretty tough. All right? So there's consolidation out there, and private equity sees it. All right? And that's what we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Same thing is true for Arkansas. Arkansas has about 740 water systems. There's only one that serves 100,000 people. That's my water system, Central Arkansas Water. This is one of my bosses right here, okay? But 71% serve less than 2,500 people. And I'm guessing that if you're in a mayor in a community that's in that area, you're struggling. You're struggling for a lot of reasons, and we're going to talk about them here in a minute, but you're struggling, and private equity knows that. Okay? So here's just some quotes out of some different publications about what investors should be looking at. And it's, water is one of the most appealing long-term investments. Barron's Magazine. There's not a financial house in the United States that doesn't read Barron's Magazine every day, and it tells them, go out and invest in water. All right? There's a lot of words up there, okay? But there's a lot of money chasing small water systems. And I say small because look down at that fourth bullet point. It says Aqua America has completed 380 acquisitions. All right? Last year they acquired 5 systems with 13,000 customers total. So they're not chasing the Central Arkansas Waters of the world. All right? They're chasing the small systems because of the amen, brother, I got earlier. You know it, that you're struggling and you're having problems staying in compliance, keeping workers, making sure you can keep the systems operating. And they're looking, saying, hey, I can help you. All right? But remember this, their purpose is return on capital. They have investors, and their purpose is, how do we get them a return? Their purpose is not customer service. Their purpose is not growing your community unless it means that they're growing your system, all right, so that they can have more customers. Their purpose is return on capital. All right? And it's not just limited to coming after you. There's 2 companies, American Water and Aqua Water, all right, that were having trouble in Indiana. They were trying to get hold of some small systems in Indiana to expand their footprint. And so they started to, well, we can fix this. We'll go to the legislature. And in one year, they made over $400,000 in contributions to legislators and what have you. And then they changed the laws to make it easier for them to acquire more systems using a lower valuation, all right? And it also made it so that, well, we already own one system. We have the system over here, System A, and we want to acquire System B, and we're going to pay that city some money for their system. But guess what? We're going to spread the cost of acquiring over the people in System A and System B. So the rates have got to go up for everybody in the state that is served by that utility. Okay? Now, what are we talking about? We're talking about you have a municipal water system, and somebody comes in and says, we can solve your problems. We know you got breaks. We know you got meters that aren't recording enough water. We know you got issues. We know you got a rusty water tank up there that needs to be replaced, and you don't have the money to do it, and so we can solve your problem, and here, we'll pay you for it. And you say, how much? And they said, well, wait a minute. Remember, we just told you all the pipes were broken, the water tank's rusty, your water treatment plant's having trouble staying in compliance. You need a new park. We'll help you. We'll buy the playground equipment for your new park if you'll give us the water system. And there's cities around the country that are saying, man, I'd be the best mayor this city's had if I get all new play equipment for the city park down there that's run down. They'll think I'm great. And they say, we'll make that deal. The day after you make that sale, that system is not worth that it's got a rundown water tank. It's worth a cash flow. If I got any economists in the room, now we're talking about we're going to value that system on a discounted cash flow. I know that I'm going to be able to charge those ratepayers X amount per month forever. And guess what? I'm guaranteed a profit. I take my cost, I put them in there, I take my cost of capital, I put it in there. Oh, and I got to pay taxes. Oh, I got to recover those taxes from the ratepayers too. And how much money am I going to make profit? Well, right now, the PSC in Arkansas gives electric utilities 9.75% on their rate models. So take all your capital that you spend, take all the money you spend, we'll give you a 9.75% return on your money. That's the ratepayers got to pay that amount. All right? The other is you enter into a long-term lease. You say, well, I'm not going to sell you the system, but I just can't operate it right now. It's too complex. It's too difficult. I don't have the money to do it. Will you operate it for me? And the city says, okay, we'll do that. The utility runner says, we'll do that. Give us a 40 or 50-year lease. You say, okay. Then I could, maybe not me, but the next mayor and the next city council or whatever gets to then look at it and say, okay, I'll do that deal. Well, we don't like you anymore. Go away. All right? So what does the utility company do that's operating the company? They look and say, will this asset last 40 years? If I can make it last 40 years now, I'm not going to spend any money on it. Okay? And so when you get to the end of that, you better be prepared to renew the lease, because otherwise what they're going to hand back to you is a system that they've done the minimal amount of maintenance on it that they absolutely have to do. Okay? Now, why would cities do this? All right, here's a list. You probably have some others. They can't raise additional debt. They don't want to raise rates. That's the one, I don't even have it on a slide, but maybe that's the one good thing for elected officials. Once you sell the system, when the rates go up, you get to say, it's not my fault. I didn't vote on raising those rates. You need to go down the street and talk to the new water utility. Wait a minute, oh, they're not down the street, or there's one person? All right? So just think about that and why you're doing these things, all right? So here's a quote from another mayor. You don't have to listen to me, all right? This is a mayor up in Indiana. He said, man, it looked like a great deal. We were going to do this and this, and they promised us this and this, and we were going to do all these things, and they were going to bring in AMI and have automatic meter reads so that all of our customers could look in on any given day and know what their water usage was that day. They didn't tell you that, oh, those AMI meters are going to cost $2.6 million, and the customers are going to have to pay for them. Okay? So it's gotten so bad that there's 4 utilities in Illinois that are actually suing American Water to get their systems back if they want it back. They offered them to say, hey, remember what you paid us? We'll pay you that. No. American Water said, nope, we own the system now. It's worth this much money because now it's a cash flow. We have 1,000 accounts. We make $9.95 or whatever it is per account per month. All right, we discount that fact. We need $18 million for that system. Okay? Globally, why does it work? Because people that are pro-privatization will talk to you about it's what they do all over the world. And the reason it works is because the countries where privatization water systems work is the government does not have the resources or it's too weak to deliver water themselves. And so the best way to get water to them is private companies. Okay? They'll come in and they'll say, well, we save you money, but we'll look at that in a minute, all right? And it will pay you cash, but remember your water system is supposed to last 100 years. So anything you go spend money on that they pay you in cash is going to be a relatively short return for what your water system's worth. Okay? Here's the other thing that they talk about. Oh, we'll save you money because we have economies of scale. All right? We can do things cheaper because we have all these resources that we can rely on. So when you look at the top 5, the largest 500 water utilities in the state, and you rank them in order by their water rates, 7 of the top 10 are private water utilities. American Water is the largest. You're talking about a multi-billion-dollar company, all right? Their earlier slide, their stock price went from $45 to $105 over the last 3 years. Their value is based on the water rates they're charging your citizens. Okay? And you say, well, that's only 7. Well, 2 of the other 3 are in California. They got a big water crisis out there. They still, even though the drought's over, water is still an issue there, and they charge a lot for it. And the last one of the top 10 is Flint. So I don't think you want to be in any one of those top 10s, all right? Now here's the benefit. If you say, okay, what's the benefit? What does privatization bring to it? They will improve your system. They will put up that new tank. They will put it up by, here's what they'll do. They'll say, oh, we got a contract for a new tank. Well, we don't have to put it out to competitive bid. We're going to contract with XYZ Tank Company. Guess what XYZ Tank Company is? It's a wholly owned subsidiary of the parent company of the water utility that's serving in your city. So they make money on the tank. And then they have the utility in your city and they say, hey, we had to pay for it, but we managed the contract out of the home office. Oh, well, we managed the contract. We need to charge a 15% contract management fee on the cost of that contract for taking care of it at the home office. And your ratepayers are going to pay for that. Okay? Now, this is where I gotta get in your business a little bit, all right? We don't want to raise rates for our customers. We don't want to raise rates for our ratepayers, so we don't raise the rates because we got to keep them low. I'm running for re-election next year. I can't raise water rates. And so we don't put the money into the capital improvements we need to make. And all those consent orders that you hear about on the wastewater systems is the evidence of that. You're operating a system, a wastewater system that needs to do certain things. It's not doing it, and the EPA came in and said, you got to do it. And so now you go, I got to raise rates. It's not my fault. The EPA is making me do it. I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't under a consent order, all right? The utility company will gladly invest the capital because as soon as they invest the capital, they get to raise the rates so that they make a return on the invested capital. Okay? You don't have to believe me, all right? We've talked about the list of the reasons why, but Food and Water Watch is an organization that looks at them, all right, and they say that on average, a stockholder customer pays 59% more than a municipal utility nationwide. They're going to say we'll save you money. We have economies of scale, we got all this, we have engineers on staff, we don't have to go out and hire engineering firms, they're already here, they're working for us, they're at the home office, just keep running through it. We'll save you money, but you got to dig into the weeds. How hard is it to dig in the weeds? It's very hard. There's only one private water utility that files a PSC filing for their rates in the state. All right? The other 8 that are in the state don't have to go to the PSC because they're exempt under the regulatory rules from the PSC. Okay? So it's not even available because you can't even go to their SEC filings like you can on American Water or Aqua Water, because the one that's their operating state is a privately owned one, so they don't make public filings with the SEC of what their earnings are and what their returns are. Okay? Just give you an example. Here's just some rates I pulled for the areas around me. Sorry I didn't go statewide. Okay? Perrin's a little rural system that has about 4.2 meters per every square mile. It's a pretty rural little city. The reason Pine Bluff's down there, Pine Bluff's private, and there's a rate filing that's been made where that's the green that's on there. Didn't line up very well, but they filed a rate increase to raise their rates. Okay? But that just kind of gives you the idea of what who's saving money where. All right? Atlanta privatized. They were having problems. They were having huge problems. They had 40% water loss. All right? That meant of every 1,000 gallons they produced, 400 was going somewhere. They weren't selling it. They weren't recouping that cost through their meters. All right? So they said, oh, we're going to privatize. That'll make it all work better. 4 years later, they said, hey, we need it back. It's not working. You're not working for us, all right? You're not working for our citizens. Fort Wayne, Indiana paid $67 million to take over 2 private entities, but the biggest problem, they fought about it in court for 13 years. Okay? Missoula, Montana, all right? They wanted to get ownership back, $88.6 million. Remember, it's not the value of the assets in the ground, it's the value of the cash flow. Guaranteed return. Okay? Payson, they had a 52% rate hike. Now, I can't tell you that maybe they needed a 52% rate hike. All right? Because the rates had been held so artificially low and that they needed to pay for the improvements. All right? But there needs to be public discussion about it. There needs to be buy-in with it. There needs to be an open forum as to what's going on so that people understand what's getting ready to happen and why. Okay? Mooresville tried to buy their system, and they offered the water utility $9 million, which is about 6x what they got paid for it when they sold it. All right? But the judge said, well, that's fine, but it's worth more than $9 million. It's worth $20 million. And if you want it, you're going to have to pay the water utility $20 million. And that city of 10,000 people just couldn't afford it. Another example, they thought they were being smart. They locked in their contract. They said, okay, we're going to freeze rates. You can't raise rates more than the contract amount, more than this, okay? Until 2020, that freeze rate goes away, and there's already been a filing made, and rates are going up 84%. Another Indiana case, they purchased a system, but they just said, well, if you're going to purchase it, you got to make sure that you give them a return on this and a return on this and a return on this. And that was in the judge's order as to how they came up with the valuation. All right? So what are the alternatives? All right? Look for regional or local solutions, all right? I know you compete with the city next door to try to get jobs in your cities for where the Walmart is going to be located, all right? I know that competition is going on, but don't bring it into the water market. All right? Look for ways to find efficiencies and build economies of scale with your neighbors. You say, well, how much economies of scale do you need? I can give you my opinion. You need 10,000 meters. If you're less than 10,000 meters, you're in trouble. There's a lot of systems out there that don't have 10,000 meters, so they need to be talking with their partners right down the road or right next door and say, hey, how can we do this? Well, how did you come up with 10,000 meters, Ted? 10,000 meters is where it actually becomes economical to have a crew versus one person. So when you have a water break, you send out 3 people to repair it versus one person with a shovel and a pickup truck who then says, man, this water break is too big. I got to call a private firm to come take care of it. Okay? Consolidate with other governmental entities. Central Arkansas Water, we were lucky. We're the consolidation of Little Rock and North Little Rock. It was fought by the politicians. Sorry if all the politicians in the room, all right? It was fought by the politicians, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't hear from somebody, that's the worst decision we ever made. Why is it the worst decision you ever made? Well, we gave up some control. Okay. Is your water still high quality? Who's got bottled water down here? Right here, 3 bottles right in a row. Oh, keep going. Our tap water's safe. I promise you can drink it. All right? We have good tap water. All right? Or if you have to go to a private operator, make your term of your contract short. I just came back from New York, was up in New York talking with some folks about a system up there, and they have a 5-year management contract with who runs their water treatment plant. And it's a really cool contract because it has things in it like when you do safety training, Suez, by the way, Suez is one of the largest water management companies in the country, forget the nation, the country, who is now operating this treatment plant for the small town up in New York, but they put into a provision that says when you do safety training, all the in-city employees get to go. We know you're this huge multinational corporation and that you're going to have good training, so when you have it, we get to send all our road crews, we get to send our parks crews, we get to send everybody to take advantage of your safety training and the knowledge you bring. By the way, when you're training these people, you're going to train them such a way that if we decide that we're going to take it back in 5 years, you don't have a contract that says we can't take your employees. We have a contract that says we can bring them all in. So we're going to give you 5 years effectively to train all our people, teach them how to efficiently operate this contract, and then we'll review it to see, do we think we can do it better than ourselves, or do we think it's better leaving it with you and Suez? But if we say, thank you, Suez, very much, we get all the employees. Okay? So think about other ways to look at it and make your contracts, okay? So it comes down to this. Public systems can work effectively. You don't have to get up every morning and worry about whether or not your public system is going to fail or not if you're willing to step up and adequately fund it and adequately staff it. And to do that, you need to develop some size, and to do that, you need to talk to and work with some of your neighbors to figure out how to do it. All right? So I'm going to leave you with a couple of things to think about. And we all know that water is essential to life. We can live without electricity. We can live without natural gas. We can live without cable TV. We cannot live without water. All right? We must have it. And I love this quote, and if that's the case, water systems are essential to civilization. Water systems are essential to our communities. We can't all rely on well water, all right? We get that many people that close together, we need to have a system for distributing water. We need to figure out how to do it. And the last thing I want to remember for you to leave here thinking about is always remember this. No matter what you do, whether it's public or private, all right? No matter who's doing it, the ratepayer pays. And the next thing I want to fall into that you think about that is the ratepayer built the system. And I know as city officials we all say, well, that's my system. We own that. I ask that you start thinking about it just slightly differently and say, we are the trustees of that system for the ratepayers who built it and the ratepayers who operate it. And as trustees, we need to do the very best we can do to manage that system for them. So if you ever think about selling that system, think about it this way. You're not going to take the money from selling the system and putting it into the city coffers. You're going to sell the system for whatever the purchase price is, and you're going to return it to the ratepayers who built the system and analyze it that way. Does it make sense to sell the system if we as a city weren't going to keep the money to build a new park or to buy a new police car, but we were going to give all the money back to the people that paid for it and built it? Would we still do it? All right, and with that, I'll take any questions.